My name is Will, actually, and yeah, of course I have a podcast. I'm coming to you all the way from my mother's basement to bring you All the King's Voices, a podcast about gender, performance, and everything in between. Today's guest hails all the way from New Zealand. This new kid on the block is a little bit vintage, a wee bit dapper, and an avid admirer of anything that sparkles. This silver throated crooner has a voice so sweet you can't help falling in love. Who is he? He's your Italian opera singing lover boy, Eddie D'Amore. Now, I do want to make a couple quick notes before we get started. As I mentioned, Eddie is in New Zealand, so I just want to say Eddie is a rock star because uh, they got up so early in the morning just to record this interview at a semi normal time for me. So I super appreciate that, but also in face at like 6 a.m. Just incredible. The second thing I want to note is that we recorded this back in May, so if it seems like early May, so if this interview seems a little bit out of date, it is. I apologize. Still working through getting everything online from this ridiculous summer. So I just want to say thank you so much to Eddie for their patience in getting this up and running, and also thank you to all of you for waiting. And yeah, with that, let's go meet Eddie.
Hi, I'm Eddie D'Amore. How you doing?
I am doing well. How are you, Eddie?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. So it's a little early where you are. Do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of who you are and where you
Sure.
are?
I am in New Zealand. It is a beautiful sunny morning here. It's 8 a.m. So I got up a couple of hours ago to get my face on and come say hey to everybody.
Thank you for doing that. It's like 3 p.m. here, so I'm just like
Yeah. Oh, it's okay. It's all good. So we're sunny Sunday morning, and I'm in Wellington, New Zealand. Yeah, that's where I am.
awesome. So you started performing drag fairly recently, right? Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about like how long you've been performing and how you got into it.
Cool. Okay, so drag wise, I've been performing like not particularly long. I had my proper debut in February this year. So like super new to the stage for drag,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm in my we normally say muggle life, but it doesn't feel like my muggle life in my other performer life. I've been a performer for a long time. I started in performing arts when I was a kid. So my other job, other than drag, other than teaching, is I'm an opera singer and a musical theatre singer. So that's where I kind of started. I came to drag in kind of a higgledy piggledy manner. I'd been teaching full time for several years and found that I couldn't perform and teach, and it was just it broke my heart a wee bit. So I left my job, nothing to go to, and rebuilt my career as a performer and as a singing teacher. And one of the very first gigs I got after I left my full time teaching job was with a um, it was a gig called the Menagerie, which is run by an amazing producer here in Wellington, Rachel Rouge, who it was a monthly event, and the whole purpose of it was to get as many and varied performers across the stage as possible. So there was always an amazing lineup of burlesque and dance and poetry and singing and bands and drag and everything. And that was my first gig as a singer outside of that teaching job. And that's where I got into cabaret. So that's where I started meeting everybody.
Gotcha.
Uh, yeah, it was my first. I don't think I saw drag at that first one, but I certainly it was my first like cabaret experience with burlesque and everything. And then a year later, she launched a massive production of this. So usually it was in the local fringe bar, which seats about 120 people. And then she did a deluxe version, which was in the Wellington Opera House.
Oh,
Yeah, which is about I want to say it's a 1,500 seater thereabouts.
good
Uh,
gracious.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So big job. I mean, I performed in those spaces before as a singer. So that sort of was a relatively normal home for me, which was lovely. But she said, we can't perform in the opera house without an opera singer, and we'd love to have you back.
What?
Yeah, which was amazing. And that's where I met Hugo Girl.
Mhm.
And Hugo was the first drag king that I ever met. And I fell in love with the art form, but also Hugo, because Hugo's an amazing human. We love him so much. And it really kind of spiraled from there. I turned up to a couple of Hugo's gigs in drag and just sort of went, hey, this is really cool. I think the first one I went to was a Rocky Horror Picture Show, drag show.
Oh, fun.
And I went as Eddie, which is how Eddie got his name.
Got it.
Um, yeah, and from there, like just the acceptance and the incredible community, I'd never kind of experienced it before,
Hmm.
and just like fell in love with the people, fell in love with the community, fell in love with this like extraordinary art form. This I love makeup, I love painting, I love um, like I've spent my life on the stage, so I love sort of turning myself into something or somebody else.
Yeah.
It was hugely alluring, and I then chickened out for a couple of years. I sort of went, oh, oh this is all a bit scary, and then started turning back up in drag, and Hugo kind of collared me and was like,
Yeah.
excuse me, come on. And yeah, and went in from there, and I got my first gig with Hugo Girl Gigs this year at they do I think it's bi-monthly usually, all Kings drag show.
Mhm.
So I'm called the Little Boys Room. So I did my first gig at the Little Boys Room this year. Yes, that's sort of that wee crooked path to this is through all of my other performing stuff.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. Well, and it's interesting because, so for some kings it's like I'm getting on stage like day one, like let's just see what happens. And for other kings it is really this process of like feeling it out and getting, going to the shows and seeing, maybe painting your face at home and just being like, what would it be like if you know?
And it's sort of that I'd come from quite a conservative background, and despite being in the arts, conservative small town, quite liberal family, but small town, and getting out of the headset of that thing that you grow up in,
Mhm.
of of stepping out and doing something different, and teaching's also quite a conservative space as well, and the concept of potentially students or parents seeing you is like losing all of those, that fear and judgment takes a wee while.
Yeah.
So it just a couple of layers of getting all that stuff off, and being like, this is my life, and I'm kind of allowed to do what I like and be happy.
What? What? What a
Such
strange
a
concept. That's so funny. So how did you go through that kind of process of like figuring out what you felt comfortable doing and getting to the place where you were finally ready to step on stage as Eddie?
Yeah, so I mean the reality was I went out in drag. I didn't know many people in the queer community here. I didn't have a big community of people that I knew. So I just decided one day, I was like, look, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go out, and I'm gonna go out and drag, and we're gonna meet some people, and it's gonna be fine. And it's just, it's gonna be fine. So it was a bit of that kind of self-talk around just actually these thoughts and these processes and these things that sit there, they don't have any place in my life. They don't need to be there, and they don't serve me. They don't make me happy, so they can just go away. So I sort of like it was like chucking them all off, and so I was like, nah, you don't work anymore, you can go away.
Yeah.
uh, and went out and met people and said hi, and just decided I was going to be brave. Um, Getting into Eddie was interesting. Originally, he's very much not a rocker boy. Now, original was kind of a rocker boy, and he evolved into this much more kind of dandy, refined, lace wearing, vintage gentleman. um, and that was through. I think I hadn't experienced any Kings singing live, and sort of thought that maybe I was breaking boundaries or breaking rules that I didn't know about if I sung live. And I went and talked to Hugo. I was like, "Am I like breaking all the rules if I sing live?" To which I got a resounding no. Please do
Yeah.
it. And so there was a lot of process around. I'm a soprano, and obviously that's not a in our minds around masculinity.
Hmm.
That's not a something that we expect, or something in traditional ideas of masculinity that we kind of think is normal. So it took me a while to step through and be like, you don't have to sound like you think you have to sound like. You can sound, you can sound however you want.
Yes.
That's and going back to opera tropes, like obviously I grew up with the fact that there are many AFAB people dressed up as teenage boys in opera who sing like I sing.
Yeah.
And there are countertenors, and there's this huge array of voice
Hmm.
uh, within our idea of masculinity, and kind of breaking down my own ideas of what masculinity looks like. Right?
Yeah.
What does it need to look like?
Yeah. Well, and it's such a good metaphor actually looking at the range of voices in opera, right? To then look at like the range of voices on a drag stage too, right? Yeah. That's super like I haven't thought of it that way, but that's great. Yeah. And I'm glad that you're a singing king because singing kings are awesome. I'm a singing king.
Yeah, I love your voice so much. I love me so happy every time. I'm like, oh yes, please. He's one of my favorites. It just got me in the heart when I saw you doing that one.
It's so fun, and it's so fun to like to bring in the other art forms. Like one of the reasons why I thought it would be really great to chat with you about this is kind of like how you're conceptualizing Eddie on a drag stage for an audience, or even as you're doing now at home over Instagram. Which thank you, keep singing. Um,
Oh,
but like, how are you thinking through like which songs you want to perform, and how does it inform who Eddie is on stage as well?
yeah, I mean that's a really interesting question. A lot of it comes from the things that I can sing. So I go, what can I sing? What really speaks to me musically? What am I actually able to do? Okay. I'm like, I mean, I love that song, but it's too low for me.
Yeah.
It's such a common thing. Um, so sometimes it's what's within my capabilities in terms of singing. Sometimes it's what speaks to me, and then re Eddie. It's interesting. They just kind of mix. So it's I'm in my own life. I'm a lover of beautiful things, of vintage style, of things that move people. So a lot of the time, like yes, I love funny things as well. But like I did Take Me to Church, which I've been dying to do for a long time, and that it's an interesting process. It's not Eddie's not a character that is set in stone in any way. He kind of develops as with the music I choose, with the things that speak to me a lot. So a lot of it is that Eddie offers the confidence that I don't feel in my own life. He offers a space where it's safe for me to explore things that I wouldn't normally explore,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and step through a lot of things that we're taught as AFAB people to believe about ourselves, to think, how we behave, how we present ourselves. He allows me to smash through so many of those things, especially as a plus size AFAB person.
Yeah.
Like, we're just the crap we're taught about who we should be.
Yeah.
And it's been so incredibly liberating to sort of throw the milk bottles over my shoulder and smash them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Eddie really, really provides a space for me just to throw away ideas and beliefs about how I should operate in the world, and throw off those kind of like those toxic behaviors that we're taught around how we exist in the world. So for me, he's a lot of freedom. He's a lot of exploring what gender and sexuality and freedom of expression in your own body is. So
Yeah.
that's who he is for me. He's a space to be really, really free and to explore all of the things that I thought traditionally I wasn't allowed to.
Isn't that so funny? I've had a bunch of these conversations with people, and that is a theme that comes up so often,
Mm.
is this idea that like once you are in a like you're wearing like there's like it's not a mask, it's like taking a mask off but putting a mask on at the same time, and in doing so you take away all the rules and you have the chance to do the thing that you never thought you could do or had preconceived notions about. And it's just like I'm wondering, like I'm sure, like I'm not expecting an answer, but like what is it? What is that thing?
The mask that we take off or put on, or
Yeah,
just
like how what is it about drag in particular, like that
oh,
changes how we conceive of what we're able to do or allowed to do or want to do, if that makes sense.
for me a lot of it is. I mean, it's such a thin veil, right? It's not. We're not. I'm not. I'm not putting on a lot here.
Right.
We're putting on a layer of makeup and a costume
Mm-hmm.
that allows me to feel powerful in my own skin. But a lot of it has come for me from the huge acceptance that I found in queer spaces. So it the confidence didn't first come from putting this face on. The
Mm-hmm.
confidence meeting people in that space who were unapologetically themselves and wholly accepting of me just as is. So that was the real changing defining moment for me, was like, whoa, this is like people treat each other like this.
What, with respect?
What
it it's true, and especially in like drag king spaces I feel like there's just like this weird like bubble that you step into, and obviously there's drama and people and whatever, human's gonna human, but like there's something about drag king spaces, right, that just like I don't know what it
is
is.
it just blow my mind.
Yeah.
There's just kind of universal throwaway of all of the shit. It just gets thrown out, and everybody's like, you know what? Just you do your art however you want. You exist however you want. That's all good.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I love that. So you had your first on stage performance as Eddie
Yeah,
recently. So
yeah.
what was it like? What was it like versus all of the other performances you've done in your life? Like what changed, or was it the same?
Oh, it was so different. My goodness. So obviously, I come from a classical background where people have, again, a certain set of guidelines and etiquettes and rules as to how we behave
Mm-hmm.
and how we appreciate performance, which is not any less than how you appreciate it in other spaces. It's just different.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and certainly, it's within the classical space, it's very polite until the end. And I mean, people towards the end of a show or an opera will be on their feet, they'll whoop and yell, they'll do all that stuff. But through the process, it's quiet. It's kind of that dignified
Mm-hmm.
feeling. Um, I had no concept. just none, no concept. I'd been in an audience, I got that concept. I had no concept about how my drag was going to be accepted because I was stepping out and singing, um, because of lots of things. Because in the opera industry, you're very much, your faults are focused on a lot because we have to be perfect because there's so many of us, there's so many sopranos, that if you're not, this really deserves some big quotation marks. If you're not perfect, who's perfect?
Right.
Who's perfect? Who's all of those things? But the most extraordinary thing was the minute they realized I was singing live. Um, and like there was this Twitter and then this eruption of noise that I was so unprepared for. So unprepared for. I did a bit of burlesque through that as well. I did some reveals. I did some. I sang "La Vie en Rose" by Edith Piaf,
Uh-huh.
and hid some flowers like under several layers of clothes and gave them to the audience. I was like, I'm gonna share some flowers with you, and just like I, the noise happened. I was like, oh wow, that's incredible, and then it just kept doing this, like, and then it would keep. So it was such a massive, like overwhelming response that I'd never experienced before as a singer, as a performer, um, at all. And it was just, again, it was that huge feeling of acceptance and love, and these people who they want to what's put on that stage. They want to be engaged with what's put on the stage. There's no sense of the reserve or judgment that comes in other spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So it was extreme, like just I've never experienced it anywhere else.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
I love that. And it's hard, especially as a singing king, because some audiences are it's just not the right place, right? Like,
yeah, of course.
but when you get the audience that is ready for a singing king but doesn't know that they're ready for a singing king, it's like magic.
Yeah, and it was so magic. It was, yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you did a little bit of burlesque as well. So had you had experience with burlesque before, or was that just kind of a new?
That was totally new. I was like, I'd seen burlesque. I love burlesque. It's an incredible art form. And I, again, this harks back to this kind of idea of being a plus size human,
Mm-hmm.
that you cover everything. You keep your clothes on. You don't, like, nobody needs to know about all that. That kind, that kind. I know, I hate it so much.
Yeah.
The fear of showing any skin for a large majority of my life has been just not what you do. And I just went, you know what, we're going to throw that one away as well while we're here. Let's just do it. Let's
Yes.
just, okay. Uh, so, so it was just another process. And it came from the fact that there was a music break in the song, and I was like, I can't just stand there. I can't just what's going to be. Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's have a wee, because we talk about reveals and we talk about creating a story arc, and I'm like, if there's nothing here,
Mm-hmm.
the arc kind of dies.
Yep.
So it's true that there needed to be something in the arc, and then the music wasn't long enough, so I ended up editing the track and putting more in so that I could actually do the reveal properly, do the wee bit of burlesque properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of that development process there.
I love it. And I love that you're thinking through it like a story too. I mean, obviously from coming from a musical theater and opera background, right? Like
Yeah,
that's part of your like I'm sure that's probably like ingrained in your head like where's the story.
yeah,
Um
yeah.
but as a drag performer, right? Like knowing where in the song you need to have something else, right? Or
Mm.
knowing how to tell the story through different media or different art forms, I think is a really good skill to have.
Yeah, yeah, and where this all kind of the learning that I had pre getting on the stage comes from Hugo, because Hugo runs not only gigs but educational stuff. So he runs something called Drag 101. So I'd done like two of his Drag 101s about how to put a piece together for the stage.
Okay.
And he does an intensive hosting course or emceeing course as well, which I've also done with him as well, a 6-week course. So part of that learning comes from that Hugo set up a really strong foundation in Wellington for learning about drag and learning about how to get on the stage and what makes an interesting piece. Um, so, there was that learning was available before I kind of started to try and put it together, which
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah. That's awesome, and it's good that you also sought out education, right? Like it's you I mean, you can king from scratch, right? Like it came from somewhere. But I'm sure as a teacher also it helps knowing that you can always be learning, right?
Yeah. I was like, if I'm going to get on the stage, I kind of want to know some parameters about how to do this stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
know how to do the spaces, but I feel like this is a space that I think knowing your stuff's kind of, it felt really important for me to honor
Mm-hmm.
um, knowing the histories, know a bit about the histories, knowing about performance style, kind of knowing your audience and knowing the kings and the people that have come before you
Mm-hmm.
was important as well. So that was sort of part of the process of getting in there too.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, so I want to talk about your makeup because I love it. So how did you find your face?
Oh, okay. So it's been an interesting process. As I said, he started out as a rocker. My original face for Eddie was obviously Eddie from Rocky Horror. So I had like the prosthetics on, and I had lots of like heavy features. I kind of taught myself how to contour via some of the stuff that I do in my normal performance life. I mean, we have to have training in stage makeup for opera, for musical theatre, for theatre. So I did. I was very very lucky in my education as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Our high school was art school unofficially, and we got taught stage makeup processes. So I had that basis there already. Finding finding this his face was really interesting. I'd been playing and kind of feeling like I hadn't found it. And then I taught myself how to do a proper brow block. And the first time I did a proper brow block and this eye shape, I took a photo and I'm like, that's his face. That's his face. That's it. We've got it. That's what feels right. So I've been playing with color and different shape and things, and not because I don't have a lot of purchase space in here. um, and I tried blocking a few times and it'd been really messy and just because it
Mm-hmm.
can be.
Can speak from experience.
Yeah, yeah. So I went and watched some Queens tutorials. I was like, all right, if we're not going for this massively kind of mask shape in the brow, then let's do kind of a Queen shape through here, or a more femme shape through here, and just see what happens. And then I played with like through here, I like really heavy contouring through all of that part of my face. So it's sort of this balance between kind of those mask and femme styles.
Yeah.
Um, that was I when I saw that face with I think I had my fur on. I just went, that's him. We're done. We're good. Go.
I love it. So when you're thinking, and I've asked everybody that I talk to kind of about this, but like when you're thinking about drag, right? Like some people, are like, I'm mostly passing, right? There's people who are, and passing is such a
Yeah,
term,
no.
but but like there's people who blend mask and femme and like use eyelashes and all of that stuff, and there's people who are using. I spoke with somebody earlier who was using body paint, and like I mean, so just everybody's doing their own thing. So what is drag? Like, what is kinging to you?
Ah, hanging to me, and that was the process as well. Was breaking down a lot of my ideas around masculinity and what that looks like and how that presents, and do I need to present in like a really sturdy like New Zealand has this type of man, right? We have our caricature man, and
Mm-hmm.
he's a good, solid bloke who just sort of doesn't talk a lot and is fairly staunch and represses a lot of emotions and does all of that stuff. And it just became that's not how I wanted to present Eddie or to present um, myself. That felt really, it felt uncomfortable to put on. So I kind of tried with that, and I went, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And again, I talk to Hugo lots, but I talk to Hugo lots about things as well, and that kind of he talks about the idea of we talk about gender being fluid and sexuality being fluid, and what are they, and why should they have to present a certain way. So kinging to me is very much about being able to explore a mixture of masc and feminine, and finding ways to express that it's okay to explore both. Like it sort of felt like I was very boxed into femininity,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it had some rigid edges, and then I didn't want to rigidly edge Eddie into any kind of um, box. And I think I struggled with the idea of looking passing initially.
Yeah.
I was like, is that what I'm meant to do here? Am I meant to always like look like I could be a guy?
Mm-hmm.
And and playing with it, it was like, no, actually, that's not how he wants to be. So it's been very much an exploration of gender and of gender roles and how they intersect, and that it's kind of it's nice to be able to play with both, and that they just don't need to have those hard edges on them that they had before
Yeah.
I started.
I love that. I like the. I think it's a really good visual too, having the edges around it, because it's so easy to go back into a binary, even when you're like playing with the binary, right? Yeah. So if you don't mind my asking, and totally cool if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, but how does that intersect with your Muggle life? Like, is Eddie just a playground that is separate, or is Eddie a part of like a larger project of figuring out where the rigidity ends?
I think he initially was a playground. I think he will very much become a space for me to explore more. Um, and I'd sort of been quite quiet, like I'd been like not massively open about drag, especially because I teach teenagers,
Right.
and
And somehow
uh,
you'll corrupt them because
oh,
drag.
because drag,
Yeah.
and that's nothing to do with them or the place that I work in. That is entirely due to do with what I've been taught about being outside the box in terms of living or presenting or being.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but that got burst when I did my first hosting gig, and it was a full day hosting gig. And the head girl of one of the schools that I work at walked past and clocked me. She walked past and looked and went, "Oh yeah," and then stopped and went, "I'm like, yeah, hi, cool." So the whole school's gonna know now. That's all good. We're good. That's fine. Um, so I think more and more it kind of allows me to play within my Muggle life with certainly what I things simple as what I wear in my life has changed a lot in terms of what I'm comfortable wearing out, in terms of throwing out ideas of what's okay to wear or do or be, and
Yeah.
taking up my and using my voice a lot of the time. So I think he will continue to kind of spread into my Muggle life and lots.
That's awesome. I love it. I love that when drag just starts like
Yeah, just it's me a wee bit. I was like, oh, drag's fun. It's an art form that I use, and it's sort of to other bits of my life. And I'm like, I'm not mad about that. It's doing some good things.
it's seriously. I know. And I think you know this, but I had a student who messaged me during an online class who was like, "Hey, are you Will actually?" And I was like, "Uh, can we talk about this not in a school setting?" Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah.
I mean, whatever. They're grown ups. I teach college, but still, it's one of those like. I mean, I get I got nothing to hide. Like I have a public Instagram account. It's not
Yeah.
like you know,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
always that weird moment of like, oh yeah, other people can see me.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Oh yeah, you can. I kind of thought I was in my own little bubble here with just all the drag people,
Yeah.
but no, no,
Nope.
not so much.
Well, so tell me a little bit about your community too. So obviously you have Hugo who's doing amazing things for the scene there. What is the
Yeah.
community like in New Zealand?
Wellington is incredible. New Zealand, I haven't had much experience of the other areas. Auckland certainly has an amazing scene. Wellington has an awesome scene. So, who also works with Hugo is Willie Smackintosh,
Oh
who
yeah,
is our current mixed capital drag winner, who's also incredible and amazing with the young and newbie drag performers. They did a roundup of how many kings were hanging out actively in Wellington, and they said I think it was 50. So there's like 50 drag kings in Wellington who are actively performing.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so we have a really cool community, not just of kings, of queens, of drag. Um, we've got two main spaces that we work in. One called the Fringe Bar, and the other is Ivy. One is cabaret, one is club. So they're like two entirely different scenes. I'm sure there are probably other spaces that I've missed, but what I've found so far is not kind of indicative of what I've heard in other spaces. We have very inclusive spaces of kings, queens, non-binary performers, hyper performers. Like, if you want to do it, you're welcome. Essentially, is what I've experienced in our community. Everybody's just up for, if you want to perform, do it. Show us what you got. It doesn't matter how you identify. So it's been like extraordinary. There's just some incredible producers as well. So lots of drag performers who are producers who are like, yeah, get on my stage, let's do it. And we have like Hugo's gigs are packed out all the time. California, who's another producer, her gigs are packed out all the time. So they're always full. There's always audience. There's so much space and so much voice given to anybody who wants to be on the stage. So it's quite incredible. Um, you've kind of got to do your walk of bravery at one stage, because the Fringe Bar is at one end of town, one end of not town, the main strip, and Ivy's at the other end of the main strip. And Fringe does their show first, 7:30 show, and then Ivy will do a 10 o'clock show. So if you're in drag and you're going from one to the other, you've got to do like the whole strip. So at some stage, you get your like badge of honor of like, I walked Courtney Place by myself in drag and I was fine.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, it's so wonderful to hear that there are like that it's such a thriving scene that you have audience. Like that's the struggle, right? Is there so many people who are fans who just want to do the thing, but like to have people who show up for you is like it's a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, and they're enthusiastic audiences. They're always on board for whatever goes on the stage. Yeah, there's this kind of massive level of acceptance within our audiences as well. So we're really really lucky in that scene, and in the spaces and in the audiences that we have.
That's great. So is there once all of this is over, um what are you most looking forward to like doing as like your next thing on stage or like your next
Um, oh, I've got like I've been percolating many ideas. I was meant to do a show called Evolution before we went into lockdown, which I was really looking forward to. That's one of California's productions where it's a space for like new performers or performers who want to try something new to go to. I was really excited about that. We've got new dates for lots of stuff, so we're hoping that there's a yeah.
Everything crossed.
Yeah. So it's looking like most things are sort of popping into next year. There's a massive King troupe of us doing a piece for, again, the Menagerie Deluxe. So I'm really looking forward to kind of doing full circle of where this all started.
Yeah.
Outside my drag life, I've got an amazing production that I'm directing that I'm really, really excited about. So that's happening next August, and that'll be my first opera direct.
That's
Yeah,
exciting. What are you
yeah.
directing?
I'm probably not allowed to say
Oh.
yet because it's an incredible production, and so we live in a country where obviously we're meant to both be able to speak English and Te Reo Māori, which is our indigenous language, but due to colonialism and many things, there are many issues, and so the production that we're doing is being translated out of Italian and is being based in New Zealand just as it's being just in colonial times, and is being translated into English and Te Reo Māori,
Oh wow.
and is a of the race relations at that time and the mistreatment of our tangata whenua, our people of our land. So it's hugely exciting and really, really close to my heart. So that's my most exciting at the moment.
Yeah.
My drag will pop up as it pops up, and I'm always excited for drag, but that's my main creative baby at the moment.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I will keep everything like fingers, toes, shoelaces, everything will be crossed for you that you can make this happen ASAP.
Yeah. We're moving the date it was meant to be August this year, but we're
Yeah.
I think it'll probably be same time next year, which is fine.
Yeah, more time to make it amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's totally fine. And in some ways, I mean, that's something to be thankful for, is that we have space to breathe and put some creative juices into things that we wouldn't normally have the space to. So yeah, find silver linings places you can.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
in the meantime, you can keep making great Instagram art, right?
Yep, that's be absolutely sane. You're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What's on this week?
So as we're coming up on time, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you're like, oh, we definitely should have talked about this, or I wish everybody knew ...
Oh, not really. You've done a really. I love all the questions. I've had a great time.
Thank you. I loved all your answers. So there you go.
Good, good. Oh, we've talked about community, which I love, and Hugo and Willie and all of the producers and everybody. I think we've kind of covered a lot of stuff that I'd thought about. Yeah.
Well, I so appreciate you getting up early and putting on drag just to, fit my schedule, which, again, 4 p.m. We're doing fine here. So you get
So
the
good.
medal.
Why, thank you.
Yeah. But it's also really nice just to connect with you outside of like Instagram. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, I was so looking forward to it. I was like, oh yay! I really actually want to like talk to you in a non.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope everybody goes and listens to some of the stuff that you actually have posted on Instagram, because you can hear a singing king, a professional singing king. It's not live, but it's close enough. And if you're in New Zealand, I guess as soon as things open up, go check Eddie out.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you liked it, why not rate, review, and subscribe wherever you feel like rating, reviewing, and subscribing. If you want to learn more about today's guests, head over to facebook.com/kingsvoicespod, or check out the comments or the description in the YouTube channel, King's Voices Pod. There I'll post all the links to everything you want to know about today's guest, and you can find them from there. If you are interested in becoming a guest yourself, then why not shoot me an email at willxullydrag@gmail.com or shoot me a message on Facebook at facebook.com/kingsvoicespod. All right, so that's it for today. And remember, keep your toxic masculinity to yourself, but share your drag with the world.